On Panorama, we investigate the toxic chemicals you can't see.
The most harmful chemicals, you can't smell them, you can't see them. And this is one of the thousands of sites around the UK that are discharging into the environment.
Forever chemicals, also known as PFAS, are used in thousands of products worldwide. They're in our homes, our food, and our water. We've all been exposed to them.
We've checked your PFAS levels. Have we found PFAS? Yes.
The vast majority are legal, but some have been linked to serious harms.
Some PFAS have been linked to kidney and liver cancer. By the time these effects happen, it's too late to do anything. The PFAS is there.
We uncover the household items that contain forever chemicals.
We've got here a really popular brand of children's coat for 3-year-olds. This has been treated with a coating that resists water. That is PFAS.
I'm speechless, really, to find that out.
And ask, is the government doing enough to protect us?
How concerned are you about them?
Very concerned. I think we're really behind a lot of other countries on how we're dealing with PFAS pollution.
I was a very agile person. Football, cricket, judo, athletics, marathon running. We went walking and I collapsed. I remember waking up in hospital and then found out my lung capacity at that particular point. And it was equivalent to someone at 81 who had smoked all his life. I was 51-year-old, I'd never smoked.
Darren Ayres, now 59, can't know for sure, but is worried some of his health problems may be connected to a factory where he once worked. He used to handle forever chemicals there, including one that's now banned.
I believe that the forever chemicals have impacted entirely on my health and my future health. The health impact has made me a shell of what I should be. Completely devastating.
The term forever chemicals refers to per- and polyfluoroalkyl substances, or PFAS for short. There are at least 10,000 different kinds of PFAS. I've come to the Royal Society of Chemistry to find out more about them.
PFAS are a group of chemicals. Some people say there's over 10, 15,000 or even more, but they all share a common structure of having a carbon bonded with a fluorine atom. And this is an extremely strong bond chemically, which makes them extremely durable. And that's why sometimes they're called forever chemicals.
Their discovery 60 years ago led to a revolutionary new product, Teflon.
Teflon Silverstone, the tough non-stick surface with a heart of stone.
Used to make non-stick pans and lots of other products, its ads were targeted at busy home cooks, and it became an instant hit.
PFAS can also be heat-resistant, water and oil-resistant.
Forever chemicals are used in anything from waterproof clothes and electronics to medical equipment and solar panels. But there's also a dark side. In the 1990s and 2000s, American company DuPont was accused of dumping a forever chemical called PFOA, contaminating water supplies in West Virginia. Hundreds of people in the state developed serious illnesses such as cancer. Since then, DuPont and other PFAS manufacturers have denied liability, but paid out more than $2 billion to settle thousands of lawsuits across the US.
These PFAS don't break down. So once they get into our bodies, they stick around and they build up little by little until they get to a point where it just starts to interfere with our systems. And depending on the kind of PFAS, they can affect our body in different ways. For example, some PFAS have been linked to thyroid problems, which affects our hormonal system. Some have been linked to kidney and liver cancer. And some PFAS have also been shown to affect our fertility.
So we're talking about a really serious impact here.
Yeah, when we are exposed to PFAS over time, by the time these effects happen, it's too late to do anything. The PFAS is there.
There have been a series of international studies looking at the potential impact of PFAS on health, including on the development of unborn babies.
PFAS does pass through the placenta to the baby, and it can affect the fetus's development.
I've come to Bristol to meet Professor Kate Northstone. She's been tracking the health of 14,000 people since the mid-1990s, including hundreds of pregnant women and their babies.
What kind of information were you collecting about those mothers?
When the women were pregnant, we collected blood samples from them. And then when the children were born, we were able to measure really carefully their birth weight, their birth length, and their head circumference, amongst other things.
US scientists asked for access to the samples so they could do their own studies.
We shipped over about 800 samples to the Centre for Disease Control in America, and they measured various levels of all of these different persistent chemicals that exist in our environment. Every single woman in our study showed some level of these chemicals in their blood.
What has the data you've got from that study been able to tell you about PFAS chemicals?
So we found that the women who were in the highest third had babies who were on average about 100 grams smaller in terms of weight compared to the women who had the lowest third level of chemicals. So it suggests that the exposure to these chemicals may in some way reduce the way that our children grow in the womb, so some kind of fetal growth restriction.
I have 2 children. I want to know if my family has been affected by forever chemicals.
Good afternoon, Catrin. Sabine Donnet, please come through.
Thank you, nice to meet you.
How are you?
I'm okay, a bit nervous.
Dr. Sabine Donnet specialises in preventative health. She's going to test my blood and urine for forever chemicals.
Take a deep breath in.
I'm not great with needles, but I've decided to give it a try.
You're doing brilliantly. There we go. So what we're trying to do here is really just identify, do you have PFAS in your blood? And I can tell you, you will, because I've never seen anybody that doesn't have. And what we then need to identify is which ones are you most in contact with? Can you eliminate those? And then we'll advise you on how to, if you can.
While I'm waiting for my results, I head to Lancashire to meet Professor Patrick Byrne. He uses a remote-controlled boat to collect samples for testing.
With a lot of these chemical pollutants like PFAS, you can't see it, you can't smell it, you can't taste it, so we almost believe it doesn't actually exist. But unfortunately, chemical pollution is widespread across the UK.
Professor Byrne and I set off up the River Wyre in Lancashire, which he says has a particular problem.
In the UK, we have lots and lots of potential sources.
Is that it?
That's it, yeah. So the effluents from the AGC plant here, we know contain a variety of PFAS chemicals.
The AGC chemicals plant manufactures the base materials used to produce heat-resistant and non-stick products. Until 2012, this site used the forever chemical PFOA, a specific type of chemical within the PFAS family, as part of this process. It voluntarily stopped using PFOA before it was banned in the UK in 2020 due to its links with cancer. The company now uses another forever chemical called EEA-NH4. Some is discharged into the river as part of effluent through this outflow pipe.
So we know that one particular chemical, EEA NH4, is discharged from the AGC plant into the estuary here.
AGC Chemicals recognises that EEA NH4 is reprotoxic, meaning it's associated with infertility and developmental disorders. Because there are no laws banning its release into the environment, AGC Chemicals has a permit to do so.
And that's totally legal?
Totally legal, yeah.
AGC Chemicals told Panorama it has been able to reduce emissions of EEA NH4 being discharged into the river from nearly 3/4 of a tonne a year to less than 10 kilograms in the first 6 months of this year. Downstream in the Wyre estuary, Dr. David Megson has carried out extensive research on chemical contamination.
Hi, David, you all right?
Yeah, really good, thanks.
Nice to meet you.
And says there are many other sources of PFAS impacting Britain's rivers.
I've tested the water coming out of here, and we've found hundreds of PFAS in the water in the vicinity.
How concerned are you about them?
Very concerned. I think we're really behind a lot of other countries on how we're dealing with PFAS pollution.
He says effluent from wastewater treatment plants and runoff from landfill are major sources of forever chemicals in our rivers, and that can affect some fish.
The chemicals are toxic, they're persistent, they're bioaccumulative, and they end up in our fish.
Personally, I've always thought eating fish was a good thing.
They should be, but thanks to years of chemical pollution, there's a lot of nasty toxic pollutants within the fish as well.
Dr. Megson's also concerned that PFAS are contaminating other foods.
You're going to have to explain why you brought me for this picnic.
Again, a bit like the fish, thanks to what we've done with our chemical pollution, there's going to be PFAS in every one of the items that we've got in front of us here.
So why would an innocent-looking strawberry have these chemicals in it?
In some instances, PFAS are added to our pesticides to help the pesticide stick better to the fruit. So when it rains, our pesticide doesn't wash off.
The European Food Safety Authority says our greatest exposure to forever chemicals comes from food, particularly fish, meat, eggs, fruit and fruit products.
OK, would you like a glass of wine?
Is this safe to drink?
The wine is probably the item on this picnic basket that contains the most PFAS.
Why would this have the most in it?
So pesticides are applied to the grapes. We then use hundreds of grapes to make our bottles of wine. We concentrate everything up, and as the wider pesticide breaks down, that PFAS bit is left behind.
I don't want to drink it now.
Studies suggest there's a statistical link between some forever chemicals and ill health, calculated by looking at large groups of people. What it can't tell us is what our individual risk is. In Berkshire, Pam Kavanagh is preparing for the birth of her first baby. She and her partner Paul are keen to minimise their baby's exposure to chemicals. They're being visited by Dr. Federica Amati.
Hi, nice to meet you. Nice to meet
She's
you.
studied how babies and children can be affected.
Thank you.
I want to make sure that I do the right things to protect my baby and the family as well as they grow up.
Pam has asked Dr. Amati to identify potential sources of forever chemicals in her home.
These pans have magical non-stick properties thanks to PFAS chemicals.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there is evidence to suggest that the PFAS chemicals can leach to the food that's been cooked in them. When the non-stick layer is damaged, more of those PFAS chemicals leach into your food. If they are scratched, do get rid of them. But if you have a stainless steel pan or if you have ceramic, that's really better to cook with, especially at higher heat. When we drink tap water, we are, depending on where you live, at varying levels of exposure to PFAS. And one of the ways to reduce that is actually just to buy a water filter, whether that's a jug that you can pick up from the supermarket, which has filters in it, or you can get one that you can get installed into your actual sink.
This is the sitting room. And what do you think I should think about in terms of the little one over here?
So carpets can be treated with PFAS to make them more stain resistant. So hoovering your carpets every day and making sure you ventilate the room by opening the windows every single day is a good idea, because it really collects as house dust.
With Dr. Amati and Pam looking for potential forever chemicals in the home.
Hi, Stuart, you all right?
I'm very well, thank you.
I've come to meet Professor Stuart Harrod, who's also worried about children's exposure to forever chemicals.
Young children are at a key stage of the development of all sorts of important biological systems within the body, and therefore that means that they're much more vulnerable to the adverse effects that this exposure might cause.
There are some products aimed at children which claim to be PFAS-free, but aren't. Professor Harrod's agreed to test this child's coat from Mountain Warehouse. Although there's no obligation to say if forever chemicals are used, the company's website says none of its children's products are made with them.
So we know outdoor clothing, for example, if that comes into prolonged contact with human skin, there's the potential, if they have PFAS in these fabrics, for it then to be absorbed across the skin.
The professor's test result reveals the presence of PFAS in the coat. Dr. Amati shows it as an example to Pam.
We've got here a really popular brand of children's coat for 3-year-olds. This coat literally tells you this fabric has been treated with a coating that resists water and therefore gives it improved durability in wet conditions. That is PFAS.
I'm out of words, speechless, really, to find that out.
Mountain Warehouse told Panorama it's working to eliminate PFAS from all its products as soon as possible, and that its children's clothing manufactured since 2023 is PFAS-free. It says the jacket tested for Panorama was from a small amount of old stock manufactured more than 3 years ago, and although the coat meets UK safety standards, it's now withdrawn it from sale. Back in Lancashire, the Environment Agency is testing the soil in gardens and allotments close to the AGC chemicals site. They're trying to work out if local people are at risk from the now banned forever chemical PFOA. It was used legally here by AGC Chemicals and before it, the chemical company ICI.
Of all the samples that were taken, roughly 99% had this particular chemical within it. It is a chemical that can bioaccumulate, so once it goes into the environment, it has the potential to stay there.
The Environment Agency found the average amount of PFOA in the allotment soil to be 4 times the level it assesses as safe. Wyre Council has told allotment users to take a better safe than sorry approach to eating their own produce. AGC Chemicals told Panorama it recognises the concerns of residents whose houses were built close to the ICI site after it closed. It says its chemical processes and products are already rigorously monitored and controlled, and is compliant with current UK and EU laws and regulations. It says both it and an independent third party it's commissioned are investigating legacy contamination, and it's committed to sharing the results with the relevant authorities. Darren Ayres worked in the chemicals industry for 30 years. He's particularly concerned that repeated exposure to the forever chemical PFOA while working at AGC Chemicals from 2007 to 2014 could have contributed to some of his health problems.
no person who were working with it knew the effects of this. It was called soap. So we mixed in open tubs, containers. I was constantly taking pipework off, discharging the contents, and then routinely cleaning these things out. So it was a constant exposure. I was covered in it, head to toe.
Darren's blood has been tested for forever chemicals, including PFOA, and his levels were lower than he expected, at 3 nanograms per milliliter. It could mean he avoided contamination, or the PFOA has moved from his blood to his organs. He'd need more tests to confirm this.
I'm embarrassed to go out because people see me shuffling or trying to walk or in a wheelchair. I can't do anything. Can't ride a bike. Can't go with the grandkids. Can't take the dog for a walk. I would like to see my grandchildren, great-grandchildren, my great-niece and nephews grow up. I ain't gonna get that.
AGC Chemicals told Panorama it would be inappropriate to comment on the allegations of individual former workers. It says it strives to meet the highest standards to safeguard staff, health and security at work, and that the health and safety of employees past and present is of utmost importance. The area around AGC Chemicals is far from the only contaminated site in the UK. The Environment Agency says there are thousands of places where PFAS pose a potential risk, including landfill sites, wastewater treatment works, airports, and paper and textile factories.
The scale of the challenge is huge. There's potentially 10,000 sites around the country. It is going to take some time to really address these issues, and it is going to be costly, anywhere between 30 billion and 120 billion pounds.
I'm going back to see Dr. Sabine Donnet to get my own results. She says anything above 2 nanograms per milliliter of blood is associated with an increased risk to health.
Hello, Catrin.
I've had 2 children in recent years, and pregnancy means I could have passed some PFAS onto my children. So could that have lowered my levels?
We've checked your PFAS levels in your blood and in your urine. And I know it is always nerve-wracking that you're saying, do I have anything in my blood that shouldn't be there? But everybody that we have measured, okay, over the years has got PFAS levels, okay? So have we found PFAS? Yes. Okay, so what's more important is to really just try to find out how do you compare to a safe level. The safe level would be less than 2 nanograms per milliliter. Okay. Your level is 9.8 nanograms per milliliter. Okay, so we definitely do find PFAS there. So what we need to identify...
And it's so much higher than I expected. I thought mine would be lower because I've recently had 2 children.
Yeah, it would have been higher before the pregnancies, for sure.
Yeah, but it also makes me worry that I have passed on a lot to my kids if I had a lot before.
You will have passed on, for sure.
Although my levels are high, there are ways to reduce them over time. Cutting out some everyday products that use forever chemicals should help.
How are we going to help you? Okay, what's really going to be identifying is in where are you in contact with PFAS? And it can be anything from your hair color to makeup, and clearly within the household, cleaning products, things like that.
Oh, God.
Okay, bring down your exposure.
Yeah.
Are we going to be able to bring the level to 0? Unlikely, but you will be able to reduce that over the next 2-3 years with a strategy.
And it's not just me that's being affected. The UK doesn't have an official safe level, so tends to use the European Food Safety Authority figure as a benchmark. It set a safe intake level for the main PFAS that accumulate in the body at 4.4 nanograms per kilogram per week. But its analysis of what people in the UK eat suggests many of us are over that limit. Even its most conservative estimates
suggests children are routinely twice the safe level, while toddlers could be at around 7 times what's considered safe. I want to know whether any action is being taken.
We're banning them one by one, and it's taking us about 5 to 10 years to ban each chemical. So each time we ban one, the manufacturers move on to the next one. I feel like it should be proven to be safe before it's discharged into the environment.
The European Commission has decided it will take too long to gather evidence proving the harms of each chemical. Instead, it's consulting on an outright ban of all 10,000. The UK government says it's looking to ban or restrict some chemicals, but has not committed to a blanket ban.
Hi everyone, my name's Stephanie Metzger. I work for the Royal Society of Chemistry. The RSC has over 60,000 members across the globe.
In September, a parliamentary committee took evidence about whether the government's regulation of forever chemicals is fit for purpose.
We need to look at the entire life cycle of the chemical, how it's manufactured, how it's used, and how it's managed at the end of its life, controlling those risks at all those stages.
Stephanie Metzger says action is needed now.
Do you think the onus here is on individuals or on government to protect the public from the harms of PFAS?
Ultimately, this is something that is a very widespread problem, and it is something that the government is most enabled to take action on and to protect us.
The Department for the Environment told Panorama it's committed to protecting human health and the environment from the risks posed by PFAS, that it's working at pace together with regulators to assess levels of PFAS in the environment, their sources, and potential risks to inform its approach to policy and regulation.
Do you think that the UK should be following the EU in looking to ban PFAS chemicals?
I think the UK is actively considering that, but there's been a lot of pushback from the industry.
The Chemical Industries Association says it recognises the importance of transitioning away from those PFAS with an unacceptable risk, as well as those that have a high probability of presenting unacceptable risk. Industry is already working to transition away, but this is not straightforward, and that regulators and industry need to work together in setting transition periods for bringing alternatives to market.
PFAS is everywhere. They're so persistent in the environment and in our bodies that it falls into this category of irreversible harm. Even if we're not totally sure of the full picture yet, if we don't do anything now, it will be too late once we get there.
Forever chemicals have been used to create products we all depend on. But decades after their discovery, there's now a growing body of evidence linking them to serious health concerns.